Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Torchwood review. And today is the last review of Torchwood Series 2, because we're moving backwards through the Torchwood genre, and then eventually we'll hopefully get into a lot of like Sarah Jane Smith and a couple of other spin-offs along the way. But for now, we're still on Torchwood. So, Something Borrowed. What is Something Borrowed about? Well, Gwen and the team are off on another fast-paced adventure hunting down an alien life form who only happens to be a vampire. Well, sort of, not exactly a vampire, but they do have some vampire-like abilities. And so Gwen chases them down into an alley, but what she doesn't take into consideration is when she gets bitten, the spawn of that life form gets carried over. Let's just say she gets up the duff. And to make it even worse for her part, she's about to go down the aisle with Reese, but has to find some way around lying that she's going to have a baby to everyone and saying it's Reese's. However, once she gets to her big day and her wedding, even though Torchwood keeps trying to get her to postpone it, just out of safety for her, Reese, and her wedding guests, Gwen is adamant that it doesn't matter what Torchwood does, it doesn't matter what Torchwood goes through, she's going to have her big day and nothing is going to get in the way of it. However, upon the wedding day, it turns out that the vampire mother slash alien mother of this baby has been hunting Gwen down the whole way around the wedding and is waiting for her to pop just so it can have its revenge on Torchwood. However, Owen manages to get there just in time with a device that should hopefully kill the alien child in the womb. Yes, this is a kind of abortion story in a sort of way. But it's all for a good cause, and essentially they managed to stop the alien from being born and also managed to stop the vampire-like imposters from invading Gwen's wedding. However, due to the mass amount of people who have seen exactly what's going on, they have to use a retcon drug, which is what Jack gives Gwen at one point to forget everything. Then Torchwood just ends up spending most of the night trying to clean up the wedding venue and pretending like none of it ever happened. Luckily for them, and luckily for Reese, he gets to remember everything. However, Gwen remembers that this is going to be not only the craziest wedding she's ever had, but it's going to be a day she'll never forget. So, what did I think of Something Borrowed? It's a very interesting story, I can't lie. But I do feel like its biggest flaw is it's a little bit too crazy for a Torchwood story. I feel like I like the idea that we finally get to Gwen's wedding and we get to go along with her on this journey, even though she's struggling with Torchwood life and home life. However, I feel like my biggest down with this story is just the kind of craziness of it. There's some times when I'm not quite sure who the vampire woman is supposed to be, and that to me really bugs me. Because the best thing I like about when Doctor Who or Torchwood or any of that sort of genre focuses on a vampire-like story, they usually have like a big main menace. I mean, for instance, with the Krillitane, it's the headmaster. With Goth Opera, it's a guy who is a villainous, great vampire who is against Gallifrey. In this story, however, fair enough, our main directive is to focus on this woman who's supposed to be the mother of the child, but it also kind of detracts away because we keep jumping back and forth between Jack and the crew, just kind of suspecting themselves. I feel like that whole mass amount of hysteria may work in other stories, but it really poorly works, at least in my opinion, in this story. And for that reason, I have to give this a 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Torchwood review. Until then, stay beautiful, you beautiful people.